Hello, and welcome to Back to the Science. I'm Dr. Susan Oliver, and I'm a scientist, and this is Cindy Oliver, and she's a dog. Now, there's been quite a bit of media coverage about the WHO reclassifying aspartame, which is an artificial sweetener, as a possible carcinogen. So, does this mean you should panic? Well, Cindy and I aren't panicking. But to be fair, neither of us actually consume any aspartame, so we wouldn't have any reason to panic. But if we did, we probably still wouldn't be panicking. And in this video, we are going to go back to the science and explain why. But just before we do that, I would just like to point out to everyone that there is another artificial sweetener, which is called Xylitol, that is poisonous to dogs. So always check the label before sharing any food with your dog. But back to aspartame. The actual reclassifying of aspartame has been done by a group within WHO called the International Agency for Research on Cancer, or IARC. The classification that they have now given to aspartame is Group 2B, which means possibly carcinogenic to humans. And this was based on limited evidence for cancer in humans, and it's specifically a cancer known as hepatocellular carcinoma, which is a type of liver cancer. And there was also limited evidence for cancer in experimental animals and limited evidence related to the possible mechanisms for causing cancer. And when they say limited evidence, they mean it's not particularly convincing. Now, that probably still sounds a bit concerning, but we need to put it into context. This graphic was put together by a group called Compound Interest, who put together lots of great infographics that help make understanding science stuff much easier. This particular one explains the different carcinogen classifications. Now, aspartame has been added to Group 2B. Other substances included in Group 2B are pickled vegetables and aloe vera whole leaf extract, and it also includes exposure to petrol fumes and car exhaust. And if you're from the USA, petrol is what you guys call gasoline. The next group is 2A, and this group is probably carcinogenic to humans. And included in this group are emissions from high temperature frying, steroids, consumption of red meat, and night shift work. The top group is Group 1, and this group is carcinogenic to humans. And that means there is sufficient evidence in humans for them causing cancer. And included in this group are smoking, drinking alcoholic beverages, sun exposure, and consumption of processed meats. And processed meats include bacon, salami, sausages, and ham. So the majority of the population is likely exposed to one or more of the things in one of these groups. However, being included in a group only tells half the story. The group you are in tells you how strong the evidence is that something causes cancer, which in the case of aspartame is low, but it doesn't tell you the actual risk. To further understand what I mean, this graphic, which was prepared by Cancer Research UK, compares the risks for smoking and processed meat. The evidence is strong that both tobacco and processed meats cause cancer, but that doesn't mean that they have the same risk. Smoking causes 19% of all cancers, and this equates to 64,500 cases per year in the UK. But processed meat and red meat combined only cause 3% of all cancers, or 8,800 cases per year. So if you're tossing up whether to give up smoking or bacon sandwiches, you'd be better off giving up smoking. But obviously you'd be better off again if you gave up both. So where does that leave aspartame? What is the actual risk? Well, the risk is determined by a different division of the WHO called the Joint Expert Committee on Food Additives, or JECFA for short. And they determine the risk based on exposure level, and they have determined that the new data doesn't provide a sufficient reason to change the previously established acceptable daily intake, or ADI. And the acceptable daily intake is 0 to 40 milligrams per kilogram of body weight. Now, one of the common sources of aspartame is diets, soft drinks, or soda, and they contain between 200 and 300 milligrams of aspartame. So that means, according to JECFA, if you weigh 70 kilograms, you can safely consume 9 to 14 cans of diet soft drink. But that is assuming that you aren't getting it from other sources. If you are also using it to sweeten your coffee and are eating it in other diet products, you wouldn't be able to have as many cans of drink. And if you're a kid weighing 20 kilograms, you can only have 2 to 4 diet soft drinks and nothing else before going over the safe limit. Now, I mentioned earlier that the evidence linking aspartame to cancer is considered limiting or not convincing. One reason for this is because although there are studies showing statistically significant increases in liver cancer in some groups of people that consume aspartame, there are other factors that could be the cause of the increase that can't be ruled out. For example, in some cases, they are using consumption of diet drinks as a proxy for aspartame as opposed to specifically looking at aspartame. But aspartame isn't the only ingredient in diet drinks. And of course, diet drinks are unlikely to be the only difference in consumption between groups. For example, this is one of the studies that the finding that aspartame is a possible carcinogen was based on. It wasn't actually looking at aspartame consumption, it was looking at sweetened beverage consumption. And what they found was for people who didn't have diabetes, there was actually an association between sugar-sweetened soda and liver cancer, but not between artificially sweetened beverages and liver cancer. If you did have diabetes, however, there was an association between artificially sweetened soda and liver cancer. So basically, in this particular study, it was only people who had diabetes where they saw the association. So needless to say, this is not particularly strong evidence that aspartame is carcinogenic. Another potential issue with the available data is reverse causality, which means the reason people are consuming aspartame could be causing the increase in liver cancer and not the aspartame itself. And we know that both obesity and diabetes are risk factors for cancer. And there is also confounding by socioeconomic and lifestyle factors. Now, studies do attempt to control for a lot of these factors, but this is particularly hard with dietary studies because people's recollection of what they consume and how much they exercise, et cetera, is often flawed. The other reason that the studies aren't very convincing is because there isn't really a plausible mechanism for aspartame causing cancer. Aspartame doesn't actually enter the bloodstream because it is hydrolyzed in the GI tract to aspartic acid, phenylalanine, and methanol. Aspartic acid and phenylalanine are just amino acids that are present in lots of foods and not remotely toxic. Methanol is toxic, but not at the amount that will be produced from aspartame. Higher quantities are found naturally in foods, including fresh fruits and vegetables. As with everything, the dose makes the poison. So, in summary, if you do consume aspartame, there isn't really any reason to panic. Of course, that doesn't mean that aspartame is a health food. Water is still a better option than drinking any type of soda or soft drink. Likewise, you can drink tea and coffee without either sugar or artificial sweetener and use fruit to add sweetness to food. But it's probably okay to be naughty occasionally if you follow a healthy diet most of the time. At least that's what I think. But to be clear, I'm not saying the science says it's okay to be naughty sometimes. I haven't specifically looked at it. If you'd like to look further into data I've presented, I provided links in the video's description. And please remember, this video is about the science, but you shouldn't take it as medical advice. For that, you should speak to your medical practitioner. If you've got this far, thank you for listening. And if you've liked, shared, or commented on the video, double thank you, because that helps the algorithm and means that more people will see the video. And of course, thank you to everyone who has bought me a coffee or little Cindy here a treat. We really appreciate your support. We will be continuing to make videos about the science in the future. So if you'd like to see them, please hit the subscribe button. Thank you.